why don't you talk about your biggest challenges playing poker?
My biggest challenge?
Challenges playing poker.
My biggest challenge, probably. Probably dealing with losses, dealing with and self-doubt. As throughout the multitude of down streaks that I went through in my career, a lot of them gave me doubt. A lot of them kind of made me question myself and made me kind of question whether I was just being lucky before, and now it's all coming to an end. And do I really know what's going on? Is the game changing? Am I no longer plus EV? All these things, and that's kind of constantly ongoing. And figuring out the right answer. I mean, it's difficult because you never really get confirmation of a right answer, until I guess you actually just win, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what counts. But you don't really know whether you're adjusting properly or adjusting just because you're losing and actually making worse decisions. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's always when you're losing constantly, it's really hard to know that you're playing well, even if you keep making the right decisions. It would always mess with my head that I had plenty of times where I'd play someone and keep losing to them and wonder why am I losing this guy? And always thinking maybe he's doing something better than me or whatever. Usually it wasn't true, and it just took a really long time to see that. And eventually, turn around.
It takes quite a bit. Maybe as I see, it probably takes quite a bit of winning before you get enough confidence to kind of to remain confident even when you start losing. But when you're starting out, it's definitely very difficult before you've kind of proven to yourself that you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's super hard when you're first starting out. I think, by the way, that because you had success in games, I personally think that people who've already had success in games will find it easier to succeed in poker because they've effectively already proven to themselves that they can succeed with games. They've just had successes in things that they've tried to do, and then basic poker's a tougher version of that compared to other games. It's if you're taking steps up to bigger things in life, if you're doing the gaming route, I personally think that poker is kind of like that.
The way I see it is when you're just gaming, right? You don't really stand anything to lose, right? So the risk reward is, if you lose, whatever, you lose a game, you're not really losing any assets and any money. And then as you grow in life, you start playing games where you actually have things at risk. If you go to work for, a regular job, okay, maybe you're not risking anything, but now you're just kind of, looking to gain something on an hourly basis. If you become an entrepreneur, that's again, just another game, but where you're actually risking something and trying to make something. And I feel like poker is somewhere in between those two, where poker is somewhere in between entrepreneurship and regular gaming, right? So poker is the next step level up from gaming, where you actually stand to lose something. So it's kind of very direct, because it's actual money. So I feel like maybe even poker teaches you a little bit about life and a little bit about entrepreneurship and about risks, and about losing, and about what it really means. Because I think you may not get that same sense from just gaming, where you don't really stand to lose anything except just maybe some of your ego when you lose in a regular game. In poker, I feel like it might prepare you a little bit more for entrepreneurship or trading or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's how I view it. Yeah, trading is a pretty obvious step. I would think it's a tougher version of a game than poker. Did you do trading?
Yeah, I did. I was doing trading at the same time as I was doing poker. Then I stopped, and now I'm kind of dabbling in it again a little bit. I think it's definitely harder than poker, but it's just also such a much bigger game. But I think the biggest difference is essentially that in trading you're dealing with mass psychology, where in poker you're mostly dealing with singular psychology. You're facing an opponent and you're trying to figure out. It's kind of like singular psychology, right? You just have to outsmart the specific opponent who you're in a hand against, or the specific few opponents who you're in a hand against. Whereas in trading, you're trying to kind of outsmart crowds. So you're trying to understand crowd psychology.
Yeah, well, there's some crowd psychology in poker to some extent. There's population tendencies that you kind of eventually figure out. I would think there's like,
Yeah.
I think it's even a bit more studied in trading, just because there's not like a handbook on like there's not really a resource of what crowds are exactly doing in poker, particularly and what the crowd even is, because like sometimes you're playing with a field full of like bad regulars, or a field full of fish, or like a field full of tough pros, or it's really hard to like bucket these sorts of fields. And it's easy to, if you're not really observant, it's easy to make various mistakes against certain ones.
Agreed, because I agree, because I think that's certainly something I remember, that I didn't learn early enough, but I did, learn eventually, is that, in poker, let's say depending on the tournament or the cash game that I was playing, I really had to change my style, kind of drastically depending on, the average strength of my table. It's just kind of doing different things and applying different, average strategies.